Everybody, welcome to our November webinar. It's a true pleasure. I hope you guys enjoyed the time with myself and Tony Robbins earlier this week. And it's a true pleasure to welcome a new friend, Glenn Sanford. Glenn, welcome. A real pleasure to have you here. Thanks for coming down from just south of Vancouver. Glenn, let me take a second and read his bio, because we have a lot of fun here. We're going to talk about how the future of the workplace and the future of work is transforming, and how do you have, I think one of your core values, more fun, and also make your company more profitable by using technologies that are converging to change the world. So I first learned about what you're doing from Abundance Insider, from Marissa, and I've been tracking it ever since. And it was about 2 weeks ago, and I was like, I want to write about Glenn and his work in my next book, Convergence. And I was like, I want to tell all of you about what Glenn is up to, so that you can start thinking about your future businesses. So here we are. It's a chance for me to do the research for the book, get to know you, and share this community with this community. It's amazing. So Glenn is founder of eXp Realty and CEO of eXp World Holdings. I'll cut to the punchline, and we'll talk about what led to this later. But right now, you run eXp Realty has 14,000 agents in 50 U.S. states, 3 provinces, 400 different MLS market areas, and bottom line is you have no offices.
We have no physical offices, other than what's required by various different states that require them to have an office with a door.
Yeah, amazing. And so you're a public company, 600 million plus in sales. What you just told me a second ago is you're on track for like a 300% revenue increase on last year.
Yeah. So our market cap's around 600 million, and and we're this last quarter we just released some numbers. So we're a little over 200% year over year for the Q3 for revenues, which is just phenomenal. So
amazing. So here's our conversation. We're going to talk about, can you run a almost global company, completely virtual, without offices, where you can provide your employees an amazing opportunity to have the freedom to live anywhere.
Correct. And
still interact as if you were on a central campus.
Correct. And
so let me first off by asking you to describe eXp World Holdings, and then I want to talk about the early formative years, and then I actually want to dive in and have all of us experience it on your digital campus.
Perfect. Yeah. So eXp World Holdings is actually just the holding company for eXp Realty. We have some other things that we plan on doing with that, and it's the public entity. So we're a public company. The primary company is eXp Realty. I was a realtor, came out of the tech space prior to real estate.
You were at AOL for a storage.
Yeah, I was an independent contractor for them for a while, managing some of their chat rooms and bulletin boards. Built the largest online service in Western Canada in the mid-90s called Interactive Cafe. I went on to launch a e-commerce logistics company right before the dot-com collapse, and sort of how internet and logistics would sort of meet. And I actually got into residential real estate for the single purpose of doing something while I figured out what my next project was, and quite frankly, so I didn't have to answer to board of directors and shareholders. So I've totally failed in that second part, because now I do have shareholders and boards of directors. But the reality is that real estate sort of crept up on me because of the way that technology could really be applied to something that is really kind of almost the last remaining legacy space in things that really hasn't got as disrupted. And yet the opportunity to look at that space and redo it is actually one of the most fun spaces that I could think of working as an entrepreneur at this point.
So, what is eXp Realty?
Well, we are a residential real estate brokerage, just like Remax, Keller Williams, Coldwell Banker. We're a traditional brokerage. You list homes with agents. They're with eXp. Many of the top agents and brokers from some of these other companies are actually with us now as a real estate brokerage. But list homes, represent buyers, basically help facilitate the largest single purchase that most people will make in their lifetime, and being that trusted professional. And we as a company are actually the platform for them to actually build their businesses. So agents will move from one brokerage to ours. We give them a little bit better financial model, a really great residual model. So we've kind of taken some elements of what is akin to more direct sales approach to compensation, and we've passed on some of the savings of not having physical offices into a unique way for agents to actually build more profitable businesses. Mm-hmm. And so that's really who we are, is a residential real estate brokerage, the EXP Realty side. And as we continue to grow, we'll see other verticals sort of show up.
And if I were a real estate agent with a more traditional real estate company versus yourself, what's my experience of one versus the other?
Yeah, so mainly, the top producer types in a lot of brokerages, they work, generally speaking, in the field, yeah. And a lot of them work home office. About over 50% of top producers, generally speaking, don't go to the office. Mm-hmm. And so they're already working relatively remote, but they're working for these different brands, and they're out basically shaking the trees, developing relationships in the community, being a trusted advisor relative to their real estate needs. And so for them, a lot of them, they literally are able to move over laterally to a bricks and mortar-less model. We do actually partner with companies like Regis, and so we can actually provide people with the ability to drop in and use some office space if they need to, but nowadays, it's laptop and kitchen tables.
Yeah. But you also have a staff that works for EXP.
We do.
How many people are on staff?
So we've about 300 people that work on staff. All of them work home office. They're all uberly connected through our platform technologies that we've sort of connected them with. So we're able to have all the same conversations and support from all over the country. So just earlier today, I was talking to folks in North Carolina, in Tennessee and California here locally, and I was able to just run into them on campus, have some conversations, talk about what they're up to and how I can help them accelerate what they're doing.
And so, I mean, one of the things that people would say is an advantage for having physical space is that you get to run into people. Right. But you actually have that ability as well to run into people on your digital virtual campus.
Well, that was the thing, quite frankly, that we solved for in 2009. Because we said if we're going to fundamentally build a real estate brokerage that's not dependent on bricks and mortar, we have to figure out a way to create those water cooler style conversations. Because generally speaking, most of the other technologies that are out there, whether it be the phone or whether it be a Skype or whether it be whatever, it's either scheduled or interruptive. And neither one of those is really the same thing that happens in a hallway and those types of conversations. So for us, we said, how do we actually take people, have them work home office, and not be orphans in their own organization?
All right. So I want to bring you back to the formative moment for this company, or at least the virtual side of this company. And then I want to dive in and experience it, and then we'll get to a point of opening up for questions in about 20 minutes. So back up. When did you enter the real estate, and what happened in 2008?
Well, I started in real estate in 2002. I was a top producer at the brokerages that I was at. I was top 50 nationally with Keller Williams. And then at that point, I actually started my own brokerage in 2007 because I'd sort of hit what I considered a little bit of an income ceiling. Working inside of a brokerage, so I said, well, next logical path is to actually start a real estate brokerage. We were using a lot of internet lead gen techniques to generate leads, and we figured we could do that through our own brokerage. We did well with that. We were on track to do about $100 million in production in 2008, and then the second half of 2008 hit.
Right. What was the company called EXP back then?
No, that was Buyer Tours Realty. So we were focused almost exclusively on buyer lead generation, and agents then assisting home buyers in purchasing a home, which was a great model, but trying to scale against the likes of Zillow and Realtor.com and some of these other players, we thought that to run a brokerage that was going to be a little bit problematic. So why don't we sort of shift our model? So in 2008, when the market turned, that was really kind of a perfect opportunity to totally pivot the model to a full service real estate brokerage and start focusing on the agent as being the customer rather than the consumer being the customer, and just looking at what that looked like and making that happen.
So talk about how you came up with your aha moment of we don't need physical offices, and what was the first thing you did and what happened next?
Well, so the aha moment was more of April 2009, we had a meeting in Scottsdale, Arizona. We had a bunch of our folks, team leaders and other staff there, and actually one of the agents literally said, "When do we get our offices back?" And
had you lost the offices?
Well, we'd closed down offices because we couldn't afford them, and 2009 still real estate market isn't recovering at all at that point in time, and the phrase I literally said in that room was, "We need to build a defensible real estate brokerage model that's not dependent on bricks and mortar." And that was, and I said, "We're not getting our offices back. We've got to build a defensible."
How many agents do you have at this point?
About 24.
About 24 agents. Is it still under the previous name?
Yeah, that was Buyer Tours.
Okay.
Yeah, and so what we did from April through about end of August was what we were solving. Mm-hmm. How do we build a defensible business model that's not dependent on bricks and mortar? And we knew we could use social media. We knew we could create a better financial model for real estate professionals. The one thing that we didn't know how to do was to truly build community collaboration. When I was running teams and offices, the teams and offices that I would fly to did the best. The ones I didn't tended to struggle. And so I was trying to figure out, how do you distribute leadership when people sort of expect you to be there in person? And so we said, we've got to be able to do that with technology. And July 2009, I had an agent that actually stopped at my house, asked me the question, and said, "What do you think the real estate brokerage of the future looks like?" And I said, "In 5 years, we're never going to have to go into office. We're going to be able to meet with a broker from anywhere. We're going to be able to work on anything that we want to, and we're going to be able to do it from just wherever we're at." And at that point in time, I'm going, why are we not doing that? And I was literally imagining meeting face to face as an avatar.
Yeah.
And at that point, it's like, well, let's see what's out there. So literally from July through the end of August, we tested 10 business-ready virtual platforms, and then we found one that worked, that would cut us a contract that made sense for us, and we went all in. I took my entire staff and I told them, "You guys are taking your computers home." And I said, "If this doesn't work, we're going to go do something else." And that was it. We just said, basically, we burnt the bridge, burnt the boats, before we hit the land. And we said, "Hey, it's either going to work, or we're going to be doing some other profession."
So you're at 24 agents at that point.
24 agents, a few staff. I mean, we had some agents that we knew would be with us no matter what we did. So we just had to figure out what that pivot was going to be.
And so just for perspective here, this is mid 2009, 24 agents, and fast forward 9 years later, you're at 14,000 agents. 14,000
agents. I think if I do the math, we're the fifth or sixth single largest real estate brokerage in the country now. We should end up somewhere around the fifth largest. Next year we should be probably in the top three, is my guess. And within the next 3 years, we should be the largest single real estate brokerage by agent count.
I like those numbers. That sounds great.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay, so you find a platform, and have you stuck with that same platform for the last?
No, we haven't. We started with one. It was a venture-backed company out of Silicon Valley, and they went out of business. We went with their team spun out. We went with their platform for a bit. And now we're on our fourth platform, and so we're not going to make the same mistake again. So we've actually offered to buy that company so that it won't go away, because it is such a paradigm shift in the way people work. And I think one of the challenges with SaaS businesses is that they've got to get a certain run rate, and we're seeing the power of this platform. So we've actually sort of.
Are you able to say what the platform is?
Yeah, the platform's called Virbela. We've already, we should be finishing up the final parts of that here in the next little bit.
The acquisition of Virbela.
Virbela, yeah.
And where are they based out of?
UC San Diego area. So they're San Diego, so not too far from here. Okay. Actually, for the science fiction fans, which obviously I know you are, they're actually running inside of the Arthur C. Clarke Center for Imagination. So.
Actually, I know the ACC Center for Imagination. I helped support it. Arthur Clarke was a dear friend. He was a chancellor, and I used to know him very well. If you don't mind, and I think you guys would enjoy this, let's take a look at what the eXp Realty campus looks like, and how many people are typically on campus at any one time?
On campus, there's anywhere from 200 to 600 or 700 people that are on campus at any given time in different parts of the campus. So I'll go ahead and log in here. So sure it's all connected. Go full screen here.
And we'll be we'll be broadcasting this. And we'll put the sound up so we can hear.
Let's turn it all the way up. Okay. Yeah. So I'm not sure if the birds will come through quite on my
very beautiful background noise.
So this is actually our campus. So if you can see the campus, this is literally people showing up in campus right at the entry area. We'll see. Here's actually some of the events that are taking place on campus today. So up until 2 p.m. Eastern, so a little over an hour ago, we actually had in our auditorium was a lot of various things going on. Let me say hi here to a couple people. Hey, Gabe. Hey, Cynthia. Guys, can you guys hear me?
Hey, Glenn.
Hey, obviously, you probably already know that I'm doing a webinar with Peter Diamandis. He's sitting here beside me, But Gabe, you and I have actually been working together since we started EXP, right?
We have.
Yeah, and Cynthia is our director of communications. But maybe you could just quickly describe where we're at and what we're doing right here.
And Gabe and Cynthia, hi. I'm sort of over Glenn's shoulder right now. But where are you guys physically located?
Hey, good afternoon. Yeah, of course. I'm physically located in Bellingham, Washington, currently logged in from a home office environment.
Cool. And Cynthia?
Hey, Peter. This is Cynthia, and I am in Seattle, Washington, also in my home office.
Awesome. I like your sunglasses, Cynthia.
Thank you.
Awesome. So, there
nice
we go.
Backflip.
little core value of fun right there.
Yes.
Yeah, well, okay. Do the dance. We got to have you do the dance here. So this is, this campus literally has right now. If I do a quick little look up here on campus at the moment, we have 239 people. So some of them are on campus, some of them are executive boardrooms. So we've got people in the team tech room. We've got some folks in the auditorium. I've got people in the Pennsylvania State Administrative Broker Office. So we literally have people like all over campus that we can sort of meet with and have conversations with. So hey, let's go over here and say hi to Steve. See if Steve's.
Hey Glenn, how's it going?
Good. Are you solving some tech challenges today?
Definitely trying.
Awesome.
More about collaboration today.
Oh, cool. Well, I'm going to go maybe run over to the soccer field real quick, and anybody wants to follow us over there, we'll go take a peek at some of the ways that we create metaphors for teamwork. So literally, we've got. Oops, my screen here. They're having a dance challenge right now, I think. Let's see. I'm going to go to the soccer field, which is. Where is my soccer field? Here it is. Yeah. So literally.
Instant transportation, huh? That's great.
Instant transportation. So what we actually have people that actually come here in the morning and literally share YouTube videos and do dance aerobics from their home on the soccer field. Yeah. So it's pretty crazy. We've got a lot of and we've had little soccer games that'll take place on the soccer field. And you'll notice also on the outside of here, you'll see these 4 little quadrants that are outside there.
Screens, yeah.
And that's sort of our we do a lot of our stand-ups. So we'll have little teams. We'll actually have team stand-ups, and then we'll jump on the soccer field, kind of collaborate, and then jump back into
So
team
the
stand-ups.
soccer field is a analog for collaborative activities.
It is, and we can actually shoot soccer balls in the goal. So it's got well, there you go. Somebody wants me to go. Somebody's kicking the ball. Want me to play as well.
Sounds great.
So this we've got lots of different spaces in here. I'll if I pick one relatively at random, I think I want to go. Let's go team services. See who's.
Or I don't know if they'll call her or not.
Yeah.
But I can ask them.
So we'll just.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, Glenn, how are you?
Good. How's everything going over here? I'm just actually showing off the campus here on a webinar with Peter Diamandis. So we figured we just jump over here and see what you guys are up to.
Nothing much. Helping agents and getting people in the system.
Hey, and Megan, where are you?
So busy.
Megan, where I see you're here. Where are you physically located in the world?
I'm in South Korea for about another month.
And then where are you guys going to be transferred back to?
Looks like Alabama.
Okay, awesome. So Megan's husband's in the military.
Amazing.
He's stationed in South Korea. And you've moved how many times since with the EXP?
This will be my fourth.
Awesome.
In 4.5 years.
and never had to change employers. Never had to feel disconnected from the world.
Not at all.
Awesome, good stuff. Yeah, so obviously we can share screens and we can do a lot of different things right in this virtual world. We can have all the standard water cooler conversations. The fact that I can sort of just run into Megan or anybody and have these conversations, just an entirely different metaphor for work.
Yeah, amazing. Real pleasure to meet everybody.
Yeah, so we'll go and log off now, but unless we want, I mean, we can certainly.
This is perfect. Yeah.
Good stuff.
Bye, everybody.
And I'm going to do.
Bye, Glenn.
Bye, Glenn. Thanks for stopping by. Have a good weekend.
My flip. Awesome.
Awesome.
So yeah, so we'll.
Wow. So that's pretty spectacular. Does everybody sort of customize their own avatars?
There is. Once you download and you come in, it actually takes you right to a dressing room, so you can sort of customize your avatar. And people will spend a bit of time actually figuring out how they want to dress and look and in the virtual world. And it's kind of there was actually some studies that showed that people take pride in what their avatar looks like.
Sure. I mean, did you study any of the work done by Philip Rosedale on Second Life when you guys were putting this together?
We definitely read various different articles, and I'm sure much of that was in that. So.
Yeah. So we're going to open up to everybody here for questions. Please be again going and typing your questions into Marissa, who's giving me a thumbs up that there's lots of questions coming in. But here's the crazy question: how many other companies have? I mean, clearly it's successful. Clearly the concept of fun and meaningful engagement and freedom for your employees is causing this rapid rise and success for you.
Right.
It's your leadership. It's all of these things. How many people have copied you?
We've had a couple people try to copy us in various different ways, but nobody's really has really pulled it off, and really talking multi-industry, so not just residential real estate.
Yeah. So I mean, I think it's amazing, and I can definitely see how it works great. And as you and I talked about beforehand, there are a multitude of, if you would, agent-centric industries with agents around the world. You had mentioned like insurance or finance, wealth management, those sorts of things. What is it you think that you've done right? And I know these are a lot of questions you're going to be asking, and I want you to sort of dig deeper. But what is it that's caused you to be successful here?
One is we went all in. There was no the fact that we are fully engaged in being virtual from day one.
Yeah.
I ultimately I think was the thing that really made us successful. So we define that as one of our core, I don't want to say core values, but one of our unique selling propositions is that we do work in this different way. And if you wanted to join us on this journey, you had to adopt that different way of being. And we've had folks with extremely great talent that wanted to join our organization, but then wanted to put in physical offices in their particular locations because they said they needed to be able to look their people in the eye.
Right.
And that that takes away from what we're ultimately trying to achieve. So they're just not right for our organization. So you have to select the right people, or they have to they'll self-select out, because you really just have to stay core to that focus in order to sort of get that trajectory.
Amazing. So next question is, your platform is on a laptop or a desktop.
Correct.
Have you, and one of the things at Abundance 360 this year that we're all going to be playing with is a lot more of a deep dive into augmented virtual reality, which I feel has been sort of in the doldrums and is coming out now. Have you played with VR headsets? Do any of your agents use them?
Well, this is all VR ready. So our platform, and there's actually a client you could download if you had your Oculus set up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you could do it. It's not, for us, it's not practical for actually getting work done, but it's fun to actually go into the virtual world and walk around. And I mean, you see everything bigger than life because it's on the headset. Where I think we'll start to see some of the value of it is when we start to think about touring homes. So there's some technology already for being able to walk through homes and to be able to experience that before as a preview device. And there's that technology is already there; it's already being used. But I think that can be a benefit, but not as much on the work side. I think the work side of just the stuff that we're doing can be easily handled without having to put a headset on.
Got it. And you answered a question back from one of your agents. What do you think the future of the real estate business is? Okay, so you've projected, you're here now.
Right. What's
the next future, do you think? Where's it go in 10 years from now?
Well, I think fundamentally residential real estate has changed. We haven't seen all the changes really impact it yet. Mm-hmm. But I consider that we really have about 4 or 5 different platforms for residential real estate specifically. We have companies like Redfin. You have companies like ours. There's a company out there, Keller Williams, which is where I was at. You've got Zillow, and you've got what's referred to as the iBuyer side of the business, where people actually buy homes cash for keys. Yeah. And I think that those, generally speaking, are going to be the platforms of real estate over the next 10 years. I think that the franchisors are basically fighting a battle that they're going to lose. Yep. They can't pivot in the face of companies that have the ability to pivot. The franchise agreements and all those types of things really screw up, generally speaking, the franchise system as it currently sits today, which is, I think, why you're seeing Realgy, which owns Coldwell Banker and Century 21, have so much challenge. Mm. And so you'll see those franchisors, I think, are sort of almost stuck with a blockbuster model without the ability to turn into a Netflix. So just because of the way their relationships are set up.
Awesome. So we're at the 30-minute mark, and I know that you guys have a lot of questions for Glenn. So let's open it up and turn over to Marissa. Marissa, regale us with the community's amazing questions.
Yes, and thank you for the great chats. It was wonderful, just the stream while you guys were showing us around. Joe and several others want to know, just physically, how do you sell houses or other real estate? Can you walk us through the interactions between buyers and brokers?
Yeah, so the actual business of real estate is actually exactly the same as it currently is for any real estate brokerage or agent.
It's an agent picking me up and driving me to the house and showing me around physically in the house.
Right. You either meet at the house or you drive with the agent to the house. If you're a local buyer, then you probably already have a relationship or should already have a relationship with your agent. So you guys are just either you're meeting somewhere and you're going looking at a tour of homes that you've picked out from whatever you've picked out. You might have picked them out on Zillow, might have picked it out on the agent's website. You may be, any way that you've done sort of your research. The agent's done their research and said, hey, based on what I think you're looking for, here's some additional houses I'd put on that list. Let's go look at them today and let's see which one best matches up with your needs. And then everything now is done electronically in terms of contracts. I mean, we used to be paper contracts was the thing that we did. Now it's basically it's all electronic.
DocuSign, right?
Yeah, exactly. And from the listing side, and I didn't personally spend a lot of time doing listings, but I did a few. But generally speaking, you're going and visiting the home. You're going to list. You're going to sit down at the kitchen table. You're going to pull up your comparables as to what properties most match this property. Of course, nowadays the Zestimate's going to come up from Zillow, so you're going to sort of look at what does Zillow think it's worth, and you're going to have to tell them, well, Zillow doesn't know because they're not really in your market, but you have to sort of deal with that, and then you talk about all the things you're going to do from a marketing perspective to get their home sold. and then they either feel good with that relationship or not, and you list the home and you move forward.
Marissa.
Kabir wants to know, how do you manage talent mining and development within your company?
Well, I think you might have got a little just snapshot of of just our agenda for the day, just with stuff that's going on in the auditorium. Well, it's just one place on campus where there's classes going on. There's literally real-time, on-demand training and engagement. We actually put a program together for what we refer to as our icon agents. Those are agents that are in the top 1%, where we actually incentivize them to actually teach agents what they do to be successful. So we have what we refer to as iConversations every Friday, where we have these top agents that come in, and part of their financial packages is, hey, if you'll give back, we've got an extra benefit for you for giving back to teach people to be as effective as they can be in the field.
Sure.
You've just spoken to some of this. Augusto asks, what is your secret sauce to make the virtual campus work? Culture seems like it would be the biggest obstacle.
Yeah, well, it would seem that way. Ironically, because the virtual campus is only one of really three different ways that we sort of engage. So the virtual campus is one. When we first launched, we were using private Facebook groups. That was kind of a big part of our of kind of creating a common. We now use Workplace by Facebook, and so it's huge. So I literally, have a stream of the entire office on my phone, and so does every agent and broker in the country. And I'm also, as a leader in the organization, and all the other leaders, we're continually reinforcing, the cultural values of the organization, and we're truly demonstrating how to collaborate, how to have fun, how to do all the things that we do. We just had unfortunately, one of our key people in the organization chose to take a different direction in her career path. So I literally did a video on Wednesday to the entire company, and I was even advised by some folks, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't, she built her business here. She was here with us for 3 or 4 years, and she added huge amounts of value. Let's celebrate her in her moving on. So culture is like a really big thing. Transparency is another one of our core values. So we really sort of focus on these as core values, and it really makes it is actually who I am. So it's not like we're actually doing anything unique. I'm not having to be somebody that I'm not. But this also bleeds through the whole organization, because I think most people at their fundamental core are this way, and so we give them permission to do that.
Paul wants to know, do you also use video conferencing, or do you just stay in the virtual world?
Great question.
Yeah, so we do a little bit of video conferencing, but generally it's because the folks that we're meeting with are using have a video conferencing platform, and we're accommodating their needs rather than our need to do video conferencing. We do have. I love the virtual world because, quite frankly, nobody ever has a bad hair day. So the one challenge with video conferencing is people actually get kind of they don't want to do it. They have to prep for it, and they have to get ready for it. And here you could be in your pajamas, and quite frankly, sometimes that's really well dressed for some people when they're actually in a campus, and they're able to sort of be totally engaged and productive in using the virtual campus rather than what they might be looking like out in the field as an agent or staff.
If I could, Glenn, when I think about, I just went through the process of buying a house.
Right.
And when I think about the process, going to find a house on a Sunday between 2 and 5 when it's open, and when you get there, the house isn't exactly like it looked on the photographs, or you didn't see the apartment building next door, or whatever the case might be, and to drive all the way out someplace to find that it isn't open then, or there's a huge amount of investment in a very narrow window. And so I do imagine a vision in the future, and I'm wondering how far out this vision is, and is it real? You can call bullshit on me, but where at the end of the day, it might be at midnight, I have an AI agent that says, listen, according to everything you've seen and I've watched you like, something just came on the market that you should see. And I put on my VR goggles, I'm at home in my pajamas, and I now am walking, it's touring me around the house. I can have a conversation with that AI agent that tells me about the history, and I can say, I wonder what this would look like if the walls were white and the carpet was green, and poof, all of a sudden I can see that, and so that it's really. So how far out is that? And do you see that coming?
Yeah, well, we're not that far out technologically. There's a company in the Bay Area called Matterport, which as a real estate professional can literally get these cameras and literally you basically take the camera every 3 steps and you put the camera and it literally gives you a full Google walkthrough of a home, which is fully VR ready. So the technology's there right now to do that. The first part, it's fairly cumbersome. It takes 2 or 3 hours typically to shoot a home in a decent quality.
Sure.
Some of the other things that you're talking about sort of exteriorly, like the reason my previous iteration of EXP was Buyer Tours Realty, and that was actually our whole business model, was actually taking 30 to 50 photos from a buyer's perspective and then talking to somebody who's actually interested in it before they got there to talk about the train that's in the backyard or the neighbor that keeps his yard really messy, because those are really important considerations because you only have so much time to go look at homes.
Yeah.
And so where does AI and then augmented with human information relative to your personal preferences, how is that all mixed together? My guess is that it's going to be somewhere in the middle. I don't think residential real estate is one of those things that you can get so far with AI, but if you're only going to do this once, twice, or 3 times in your lifetime, which is generally speaking what somebody does, it's a pretty nerve-wracking thing to sort of think about AI helping you with that decision when you're thinking about schools, you're thinking about neighborhoods, you're thinking about what are the neighbors like, you're thinking about all these things that you just don't know if you're going to really fit in until you're there with somebody who can help you sort of walk through that mentally.
And so do you think that that VR, going and touring a house in VR first before you drive out there and being able to see it and having AI give you some of the information, but then the comfort of making the buying decision with the human as holding your hand, so to speak?
Right. Well, I think that's definitely a subset of consumers will definitely be willing to go that way. Now, what size that is right now, these are early bleeding edge adopters, 1 or 2% of consumers that would be willing to sort of do that side of it. However, that being said, as a real estate professional, if that's what you specialize in, that demographic's growing, and you can build a book of business around that as a real estate professional.
Sure.
So how far that goes, I think you're 10, 15% of the marketplace eventually in 10, 15 years might be totally engaged with doing it that way. And then I think the balance is still going to be, let's go out on a Sunday drive, let's tour some open houses, something captures their attention. They're not so much driven by data analytics, but more impulse buying based on what's going on and sort of things that they're thinking about, and then working with the real estate professional that they've built relationships with over time, just in their social interactions.
Got it. Marissa.
Pedro is working on tools that leverage AI to assist home buyers when buying homes without the need for much human broker intervention. So he wants to know, which functions do you think human brokers are and will continue to be better at than AI brokers?
Well, I think it really has to do with sort of the emotional intelligence. I think that's really the big piece. I mean, until we can sort of solve the emotional intelligence of AI, this is the single most emotional buying decision you're going to make in your entire life, generally speaking, and you're going to raise your family there. In a lot of cases, this is where someplace you're going to bring people to, and so that the relationship side of home buying is going to be the hard part for AI to bridge that gap, at least in my opinion, in the short run, for sure.
Yeah.
Pam, I love this question. What were some of the stumbling blocks you faced in digitizing EXP?
It really wasn't as hard as one would have thought. I'm a mind map guy, so I build everything that I've ever done. I've laid out on a mind map, and once I put it on a mind map, it all makes sense. Like it's just you create a circle, and then all the subcircles and everything else. You see it all sort of hooks together. And so we actually built the EXP business plan itself over about 3 days on a mind map. And so this was and so I was. At that point, it wasn't collaborative mind mapping, which you can do now, which is way better. But I was like literally updating the mind maps and then messaging out to everybody, take a look, give me your feedback. And so we were doing go-to meetings and sort of sharing what the mind map looked like and those types of things, sort of asking and sort of massaging things around. But it literally only took us 3 days to lay out the mind map, and then it literally was, we need a cutover date as to when we're going from this business model to this business model, and
not compromising.
And not compromising.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds like the most important thing you did was you didn't compromise.
Yeah. Yeah.
This next one is from Steve. Your platform is awesome. However, just like an office environment, there's usually something you would do differently. Do you have any challenges that you'd like to address in the future?
Well, we are relatively open office, meaning that if you have our download link, you can literally install it on your computer and you can come into our office. And one of the challenges with that is that from time to time, whether it be competitors or people who just like to be obnoxious, they'll do strange stuff. So, I mean, unfortunately, we literally had somebody come through, and we weren't able to track who it was. Now we can. So just saying, but we literally had people like come in and like do stuff like putting porn on like the standard screens. So you walk in the office and there'd be like something going on that you don't want, and the screen would autoplay. So there's like so we had virtual graffiti going on in campus, and that's been it's been a challenge because that happens once and the whole organization goes, what the hell just happened? And so it's so those types of things.
Like a terrorist activity.
It is.
Francis wants to know, do you encounter any communication problems with employees in VR?
Well, we don't do full VR, but we do the 2D, 3D version of VR, even though you can, if you wanted to, put the VR headsets on and go in. It's so one of the things we have to work on, and we just actually just brought in somebody with the additional title of Chief Collaboration Officer. And one of the reasons why we did that is because we need to force more true cross collaboration. So we just did an event in real life where we did a speed meet and greet of agents, and so we're actually going to do speed meet and greets in world of staff where they'll actually get a chance to sit down, sort of person to person, to get to know people more, and then collaboration technologies where we can actually sort of drive engagement. A lot of times, and we have this just like in any company, we'll have people who will sort of disengage, sort of sit behind their screen, not be as involved, and so what are those daily check-ins? So our big three questions, like in like most tech companies, is what did you do yesterday? What are you doing today? And is there anything that's standing between you and getting it done? And how can I help?
So can you do things like gamify, having people more engaged?
We can. It's still, some of it still comes with this is what we'd like you to do.
Yeah.
But between the tools that we have using, whether it be Workplace by Facebook or a virtual world, I think we've got the tooling to be able to drive engagement and check-ins and gamifying.
And can I have the system notify me when someone's I can find out where someone is at any one time and I can hop over there, or
yep.
Like when Glenn shows up in the soccer field, let me know so I can go there and meet him.
Well, we don't have that, but listen, team in the back office, that's a good one. But I can search for anybody on campus. I can see where they're at. I can then go meet them, and we encourage that. We encourage people to go and have conversations with folks, especially the folks in leadership and different, and then we've got a lot of people sort of running back office functions, and so we've had to put in like ticketing systems. So just like sort of go on the DMV, you're grabbing a ticket and you're standing outside of, and then you get zoomed in when somebody can help you. And so we've got these kind of cool technologies that we're starting to build for engagement.
And do you ever have physical meetups where people get together for a coffee, or an annual conference where everybody physically gets together and meets?
We just finished one up 2 weeks ago. So I think, or maybe it was 3 weeks ago now, but we were in New Orleans. We had over 2,000 people showed up. We were there for about 2.5 days together, and so that was an amazing event. We call it EXPCon, and then we'll have another event in Orlando in the summer, and then we'll have another one actually in Las Vegas next year. So we expect that those will double in size next year. So we went last year we had 800, this year we had 2,000. So
wow, amazing. Marissa.
Anthony runs a small family business in the insurance field, and he's wondering, once you guys purchase Virbela, will you make the model available to other industries?
Hook me up on LinkedIn. Hit me up on LinkedIn. Yeah, we'll work something out.
That's great. I love that. What else you got?
Pam wants to know, how do you manage "please don't interrupt me" time at EXP?
So one, you can not be in the world, so that would be one way. But generally speaking, the world is uberly connected. We have sort of a juxtaposition between hourly employees and salary-based employees. And of course, and I don't think that employment laws have really caught up with sort of the current economy. So we do have to actually tell people that are hourly to some extent that they need to check out because they want to be service oriented and they're able to be connected with at any time during the day. But if you're doing real work, then you drop off the various platforms so that you can get work done with your team, or you're in your work group with your group and your team in world. And so it's really just a matter of sort of adapting to it as an individual, and then making sure that you just sort of iterating around what makes you most effective.
I've got to read this one out. This is from Sammy, who's an active agent with EXP. She says, the platform has been amazing for me and beyond anything I've experienced being in the real estate business for the last 15 years. Thank you, Glenn, for making it happen.
Awesome. Thanks, Sammy.
Pedro wants to know, what's your best memory of something that's happened on the platform within the company?
Well, I was hoping we would catch up with Jason, guessing in World, but one of his favorite stories, which I know he would have mentioned, was that we've literally had baby showers in World. We've done happy birthday celebrations. It's interesting when we have like all these people singing happy birthday from their computers, and of course all the audio is not quite syncing, so it's like this really,
discordant.
Yes, yes. We've shed tears, we've laughed, we've played games. We got a pirate ship. One of our original platforms, we could bring in anything that was on Google SketchUp. There's lots of models, so we bring in stuff. So we pools and poker tables and all kinds of fun stuff. So I think the favorite stuff is just the creating of new experiences and thinking about what those new experiences might be. And then we just finished Halloween. We had the entire campus was Halloween. You could go in and actually select like a pumpkin head to actually be in there. So one of the cool things is built on at its core, it's a gaming engine. And so we get all these things that we can do in a first-person shooter game, and we can actually sort of incorporate those into our virtual world.
Amazing.
Here's a fun one from Kabir. Who are your current mentors? Where do you go to get inspired?
I've had one of my mentors who, for a number of years, he passed a couple of years ago, but he was a gentleman that had from Canada that had worked with Kerry Packer, the Australian billionaire, and so he really taught me a lot about business. He was an engineering type of person. I love reading. I'm a student of everything I read online. So the fact is there, literally, the world universe has sort of been my mentor of sorts. My dad probably is as big or bigger than anybody because he was an entrepreneur from a young age, and I got to see the benefits of entrepreneurship and the possibility thinking from him. I literally started my first company when I was like 14, 15 years old. So I've always been sort of geared toward entrepreneurship and just recognizing that if you can identify a problem, there's a solution out there somewhere.
If you were going to if you were going to take this platform play into another industry, do you have a next industry that you think is like the perfect one for this?
Well, there's some that they're parallel to residential real estate. So we do think about the mortgage industry would be a kind of a interesting one for us to get into because
adjacency, so to speak.
Yeah, and one of the reasons why I think that one's interesting is because mortgage, generally speaking, doesn't need physical offices. You're usually just talking to your mortgage loan officer over the phone. You're messaging or uploading paperwork back and forth. But I think that the virtual world experience plus sort of working with loan officers that are geographically distributed starts to make sense from our space. I do think that anything that is professional service oriented, and again we go back to insurance and mortgage and those types of things, make total sense. Any direct sales companies that have distributed sales forces to begin with, outside of the manufacturing side of the business, This is really, really powerful for those types of spaces.
Great.
Steve would like to know, how often do you upgrade your virtual environment? Add rooms, modify? Is there such a thing as a virtual space planner?
There is. The cool thing is that literally I can say, I need a space for this, and we typically do our software updates for the virtual world on Tuesdays. So on Tuesday afternoon, usually that new space is there. And basically, if we can sort of imagine what we need, it's fairly easy with the tooling to sort of get that within a week or 2 weeks period of time.
Daniel would like to know, how much time do agents spend on the platform versus time out in the field working on revenue?
Yeah, well, it's a great observation. Most of the time they're out working on the revenue side. The reality is just like in a physical real estate office, if you've ever been to one, real estate agents are not there anymore. They're out in the field. They're working on the business. So they've become, to some extent, ghost town. So we've actually been able to create a way for them to engage when it's convenient for them and come into a virtual world. But it's still probably 90% is out in the field where the houses and the people are, as one of my old mentors said, and 10% is using the virtual technology to stay connected.
Do you have a performance metric of efficiency or increased profitability that you attribute to what you're doing here?
Not yet.
Gut level?
Yeah, gut level, it all depends on what markets you're in. So we've got some agents here, West Hollywood Hills, that I've talked to, and they talk about the fact that they don't have to fight traffic now to go to the office. So, so they're picking up, potentially, 30, 40, 50 minutes a day. And they're not having to, a lot of times for those office meetings, not having to get dressed. Now they just have to go out when they're actually having real meetings with real customers. So from that perspective, there's definitely some efficiency improvements.
Yep.
The other part where we get some efficiency improvements is we're really strong on coaching on technology and lead gen. So that for agents that take advantage of that coaching and training, they're certainly getting more business. But I think really what I would measure is the sort of the commute side and the leadership distribution side, because in most real estate offices, you're coached by the best person in the office. Sometimes it's the broker owner, sometimes it's another agent in the office. In our organization, we're distributing the best people in the company, so people are able to get definite lifts from that, from being able to get feedback and then message those people right away because they're all connected on the same platform. As to, you just mentioned this in the training on how you work buyer scripts.
Right.
So I think that's where we really get the lift.
Christina, Steve, and several other members have a question for you, Peter. Are we looking at the next generation of Abundance 360, Abundance Digital? What do you see for the future of in-person and digital communities in virtual spaces?
So that's a great question, guys. I love this, and I think that as we are building out Abundance Digital, that this would be a fantastic concept to create, Abundance Island, so to speak, where you can go hang out and have cafes and have conversations instead of just on the app where you can physically go. And so that's a conversation I look forward to having with you. This year at A360, one of the things that we're working on doing is we're digitizing the Hilton hotel room, the Hilton, ballroom, and we're going to be digitizing all our speakers, and so that you'll be able to put on, if you have a VR headset, and go and actually experience the entire, if you're not physically at the summit, if you're not one of the 360 CEOs there, you'll be able to go and physically or virtually experience it. But I think it's a little bit different to have this sort of the term Abundance Island comes to my mind, where you can go or Abundance Campus, if you would, and sit down and have conversations and so forth. So I'm totally open to the exploration, especially if I can convince Glenn to let me explore utilization of some of his software.
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, cool.
You heard it here first.
So I just want to say thank you for doing what you're doing. I think one of the things is, number one, it's creating a culture of fun and meaningful work. Number two, just becoming we all need targets to shoot for. We need models to emulate and to create, and clearly you've done it, and just the velocity of your growth shows a success. Personal thank you for actually coming on down here and spending some time together and getting a chance to meet the XPRIZE community here as well. We're talking with Glenn about are there ideas around the future of work. If someone loses their job because they're no longer an Uber driver or no longer a cashier at a restaurant, how do you train up and find a job virtually someplace else? I think this is part of where we're going. So I'm excited to continue to not only to follow your journey, but to start to experiment in the world that you're creating. So
Well, that'd be awesome.
yeah,
That sounds good.
A real pleasure. Thank you so much, Glenn. Thank you for what you're doing.
Well, thanks, Peter.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
So everybody, I hope you guys have enjoyed this. Love sharing it. I'm going to be writing about Glenn in Convergence. I think it is definitely the next book after Bold is Convergence, and part one is about all these different technologies. Part two is about how these technologies are impacting industries, and clearly the impact to the real estate industry is significant. Our next webinar is going to be with dear friend Max Bricklin. It's Ask a Venture Capitalist, November the 14th at 11 a.m. If you are in the the sort of early days of starting your company, want to figure out how to pitch a VC or what the right questions are, how to position yourself. Max is my partner at Bold Capital Partners and a member of the Abundance family. So as always, thank you to Greg and to Marissa. I hope you guys have an amazing day, and we'll talk to you soon.